We made it.
Yes, we did.
We are here. We are doing a LinkedIn Live. We're also live on YouTube right now. And I am so thrilled to have a conversation with you today about your signature talk. Before we get that started, though, I just want to share to those that might be watching right now that we had some tech issues last time, did we not?
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Part of it was me. I'm not a tech savvy person, so
No,
I'll take the hit.
you don't get to put yourself under the bus. No, it's I find though I bring it up because tech issues happen. And we can either handle them with grace
Yep.
or we can panic. And I feel like we did a really good job handling it with grace.
We did. I was able to swear offline. Okay. Hey, my attitude is there, 450,000 words in the English language? Use them all, I say.
Use them all. If you can,
if you can.
Use them all, God willing.
Right.
Well, so, Mark, I'm excited to have this conversation with you today because we're going to talk about your signature talk, which I'm going to ask you about here in a moment. And I'm also excited because this is my opportunity to really lift up the voices of the people who are a part of the Confidently Speaking community in the Grundy, which is under Grundy Coaching. And it's a way where speakers can, I call it a workout exercise, their speaking skills through improv exercises. So apply to improv, if you will. And you are a part of that community.
Happily so.
Happily so. And it's always such a pleasure to see your face in that Zoom screen. And you are a speaker yourself. So I would love for you to just share your business and your role, who you serve, and then tell us a little bit about the signature talk and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Yeah, happy to. My business is focused primarily in B2B organizations, and I help those organizations or businesses with three things. Number one, improve the performance of their people and their operations by getting rid of the barriers that inevitably get in the way of people being able to get their job done or the operations themselves. Two, helping those same kind of businesses manage the journey of change that might be brought about by a merger or an acquisition or a restructuring of some sort. And then third, being a big believer in analytics and using data to make better informed decisions, I help those same organizations with data-driven marketing to get the right message to the right customer at the right time. And I have experience across all three of those. And I have had projects with clients where all three of those things have come into play. And that's where things really get exciting because now we're talking about big, complex stuff with lots of moving parts. And fortunately, I have a great group of consortium partners that I bring in my business model to help me out.
That's awesome. I love that. I love the data and the analytics piece of it because data as a creative with a performance background, that was not something I looked at a lot.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. You're not alone. One of my favorite sayings from, his name escapes me now. Peter, the business writing guy, he said, if you can't measure it, you can't prove it.
It's true. Yeah. Well, I now find it fun. I actually find it really fun. I think it's exciting to see what kind of data comes through and what you can do to improve. I think it is creative.
It is a form of creativity. Yeah. Now you can be creative without using data, but your risk of error is a lot greater.
It's a lot greater. It's a lot greater. Well, tell us. And also I just want to share with people that if you are watching and you do have a question for myself or Mark, please put that in the chat. We're happy to hear from you. If you're here right now and you're watching, please go ahead and say hello. But Mark, tell me about your signature talk.
Yeah, I'll start with the inspiration for it. A few years back, prior to COVID being around, I stumbled across, literally kind of stumbling in my casual reading, 3 rules of work that were inspired by how Albert Einstein did his thinking and his work.
Yeah.
And this was in an article from Newsweek from 1979 by another physicist by the name of John Wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
And as I read these 3 rules that described how he saw how Einstein did his thinking and his work, I sat back and I said, I had this little theta wave, and I went, you know what? These can apply to business. This isn't just for astrophysics and rocket science, so to speak. So I decided to turn those 3 rules into a talk to deliver to my customers and prospects, and as a way to sort of generate awareness and make myself more visible out in the marketplace, because I do public speaking as a way to do that for myself and for my business. And it just seemed like a really great topic. And in doing a little bit of research with some speaking professionals, they said, Mark, that's a really good topic because you're involving Einstein. That's a bit of a hook.
Yeah.
So I went full force for it. I have delivered this presentation both virtually and in person probably about a dozen times so far. And it is my signature talk. There are other things I speak on, but this is the one that I really am most excited about, and the one where I really have a lot to offer the audience. It's not a motivational speech. It's really about providing the audience with actual things that anyone or any business can and should do.
What do you feel is one of the biggest takeaways that your audience has from this talk?
The actual tips. Quite often, the comments I get is that, "Hey, thanks for reminding us about those tips." And then other feedback would be alongside of those comments would be, that's really a good point. I never thought about that part of it, Mark.
That's great. And
So,
because you've done this talk so many times, I'm curious, is there anything that you feel first that you would maybe adjust now for the next time? Like, what do you feel is going really well about it, and what might you adjust with that talk?
yeah, one adjustment I am making going forward, and it's based upon I don't remember where I saw this and who exactly said it. I'm still looking. So if you know it when I say this, please tell me. But one of the points I make in the presentation is that we all think that, and we all know that Einstein was a genius. One of the things he was really good at was taking and simplifying the very complex. The best example is his E=mc² formula, which really describes the workings of the universe. Talk about simplifying the complex. The other thing that he was a big believer in is that there's always opportunity out there, especially during times of difficulty. And one of the things that I guess this is sort of the emotion or mind-stirring moment in the presentation, among others, is to instill in everybody that we all have the ability to think in our mind's eye and do mental experiments, just like Einstein did. Just because he was a genius doesn't mean we can't do it ourselves. And so I talk about the fact that we all have ideas and thoughts that have value. And the way in which I'm going to broach that part of the presentation to talk is to ask the audience, and I'll ask the audience here if you want to put it in the chat or in the question area. What's the most expensive land in the world?
What is the most expensive land in the world?
Yeah. What do you think the most expensive land in the world is?
I don't know.
People will guess a number of different things, and the answer is cemeteries.
Manhattan? What?
Cemeteries.
Cemeteries. Tell me more.
And here's why. Because of the billions, if not trillions of dollars worth of ideas that people had that they never acted on while they were still living, that went to their grave with them.
I'm just letting that sink in for a second.
Yeah, let it sink in for a little bit. Yeah, like, cemeteries, what are you talking about?
No, it's so true. So, Mark, is there an idea or something that you have? Einstein, this signature talk is one of them that you've put into fruition. What is something else maybe that you're noodling on right now that you want to get out there?
It's something that I have been advocating for a while now, given my role as a business consultant, and that is the importance of not losing sight of your core values, both individually and as a business, and how they really are the DNA that describe who you are and what you believe in, and also the same notion for your business. And that should be the first thing you think about in your business, whether you're an ongoing business or a startup business, is to identify and get real clear on what your core values are, because they're the DNA, the foundation for everything else, long before you even think about your mission and your vision. I see a lot of organizations get them backwards. They do their vision and their mission, and then they'll say, well, what are our core values? It's doing it backwards. You have to start with your DNA, what describes you.
I love that. And I would agree with that 100% because I think they're really great guardrails for everything and all the decisions that you make moving forward. But I'm curious, as an organization, because I have worked with several people, because I will ask the question, what are your core values? I even have an exercise that helps people kind of identify them, because from those core values, I then will ask, okay, well, identify a story that was inspired by one of those core values and write from that place. Because if your story is in alignment with what you value, it's going to be easier for you to share that story.
Yep.
So, however, there have been people I've worked with in the past when I've asked them, and they work specifically, they're not entrepreneurs, but work for an organization. I'll ask, what are the values of your organization? And there will be people that have no idea, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
in leadership positions within their
Oh yeah.
organization. So tell me, Mark, right now, how would you advise a company that's in growth to teach those values so that all the employees know what those guardrails are?
Yeah, great question. And by the way, there is research to back up what you just mentioned about people not knowing what the organization's core values and mission and vision are. There's
Yeah.
research by the Human Capital League that found that for a typical organization, only 42% of the employees even know those three things. And if we accept that those three things, your core values, your mission and vision, are the whys of your business or what you do as a consultant or a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
If you or your people don't understand those things, it's kind of hard to deliver on them. So there is research to back up what you just said. The first thing I would recommend is, to answer your question directly, is pick out randomly, depending on the size of your organization, and I'll just use the round number of 6. Pick out a half a dozen people from different parts of your organization and go to them individually and say, what are our core values? And to the extent that you get as many different answers as the people you ask, that tells you that they don't know. So you want to first validate how bad the situation is or how much of a need there is to make sure that you're getting people aligned around them. They need to know what they are. The second thing you do, and the betting side of me says that in even some of the best organizations in the world, you're going to get a mixed group of answers so that everybody's not aligned with what the core values are. So the first thing you got to do is you got to go back and figure out how to get everybody on board and understand what those are.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to, I think, 2 truths of human behavior that you can make your ally for
Mm-hmm.
everything in general about how you run a business, but for getting alignment around things like core values, is to understand that there are 2 truths of human behavior in this world. Number 1, what gets talked about in this world is what gets done. And number 2, what gets measured in this world is what gets done. So talk about and measure a lot the
Mm-hmm.
things that have to do with core values, measure and make sure that people are understanding them, talk about them a lot, and don't let other messages distract you from making sure core values are on everybody's mind when they start their day, when they start their approach to work.
I think that's really important. I think I feel too that even in this job market now, there's a lot of people who are searching for work.
Mm-hmm.
I found it's important. I'm an entrepreneur, so I've only really applied for maybe 2 real jobs in my whole entire life. But
Lucky you.
I know, but the differentiator, I mean, back, I was serving tables and stuff like that. I wasn't really looking for like, what are your core values? I was just like, is it a good restaurant where I'm going to make tips, right?
Yeah.
But but now that I care more and I understand the importance of being in alignment with the organization's core values, I feel that if you're searching for a job too, it's really important, like that the organization in which you're applying to, that is in the forefront.
Yes.
Right? So that even in
Yes.
that interview process, it's very clear what those core values are. Because if you're going to be working for an organization that's not in alignment with your core values, then it may not be a good fit from the beginning.
Yep.
And then people,
That could be a warning sign. Yeah, absolutely. And as part of also making sure that core values are you're getting alignment around them and you're constantly being in a position to reinforce them, is to constantly look for examples of where the organization is living those core values. And that includes asking people in the organization, give me an example of our number 1 core value is X. Give
yeah,
me an example of where we're living it or not. And
yeah,
if people are struggling to identify how we're living our core values, that means there's still an opportunity to get more alignment around and identifying what those core values are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to ask you another question. Are you ready for it?
I am ready. Go ahead.
Because you know why you're ready for it?
Uh, well, I kind of know your style. I mean, you are, after all, an improv expert. And we're not, ladies and gentlemen, we're not working off a script here in any way, shape, or form.
We are not. It's not allowed in my world. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
scripts are allowed, but not at first.
Yeah.
Not at first. No, 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 no. Okay, here's my question. What inspires you to get out of bed every morning?
A couple things. Number one, I have a huge bucket list.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm on a little on the backside of my career, given my age, but my bucket list means I got a lot of things in life to do, and those things require some means to get it done. So
Mhm.
that's part of how I get up in the morning. The other part of reason I get up in the morning is that I'm not the kind of individual that can sit around and not have something of value to do or feel like I'm contributing.
Mhm.
The thought of retirement to me, if you're not doing something, is not retirement. That's just waiting around to go in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a hard time with that word retirement,
Yeah, I maybe just call
personally.
it a late life transition,
Yes.
something like
A late life transition.
that. Right.
I love it. Or your 3rd chapter.
Yeah, third chapter, right.
I like the 3rd chapter. Well, those are beautiful. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah,
another question. Are you ready?
sure. Yeah, good.
What is it that you like about the Improv for Speakers program? Confidently speaking.
It the ability to teach me or to get me to think about how I can get out of being too staid and too scripted. Most of my career, and you and I have talked about this in the
Yeah.
past, and the reason why I really am interested in the group, and I've been a member, a regular member, is most of my career up until I really started putting emphasis into the speaking part of what I do, was in a corporate world where there isn't room for humor. There isn't room for you're going off of a script. You're generally going off of a PowerPoint presentation. Or I remember the days when we did 35 millimeter slide presentations. And then
Yeah.
between the old overhead machines, remember all those
Oh,
silly
yes.
things?
Oh, yes.
So now it's PowerPoint. Now it's it's Teams. It's Zoom. It's all that kind of stuff. But it was a very scripted world,
Mhm.
and I recognize that if I'm going to be the best speaker I can possibly be, I have to have more than one speed, so to speak. I have to have I have to have
Thank
some
you,
more gears.
hallelujah. Thank you,
I,
hallelujah.
I need
Yes,
some more
one more
gears
than
in my
one speed.
bicycle. Yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. Well, we are definitely working at multiple speeds in that
yeah.
group. I would yes. And I love it's just such a really it's a tremendous group of humans. Like everyone in that group is really positive. They're lifting each other up. They're there to
Yes.
have fun because work doesn't have to be boring.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't.
Work just boring. It's like, I go to work and make the donuts. I go home. That's not a life.
No, and
Um,
also I feel as adults, we need play. We need
yeah.
to find deep play like we were when we were children because that formlessness is so important, for our mental health.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously I recommend the group to anybody who, even if you're not going to be a serious speaker and do speaking a lot, but in terms of your ability to communicate better, even if it's just with your family or friends,
Yeah.
you're going to pick up some tips and some ways to get you extra gears so that your presence is going to be more impactful.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Um, so Mark, is there a question that you have for me? I love being
Oh,
put on the spot too, Mark.
I do. Yeah. So, you grew up in Colorado
Mhm.
and you came to New York. Did you come to New York because of pursuing your career in acting?
No.
You did not. So what got you into the speaking space and ultimately became your inspiration for starting confidently speaking?
Oh, I love that question. Well, it was through improv because I was teaching at Second City in Chicago many a moons ago. And I started teaching improv to corporate teams. So I was it's applied improv. That's what I was teaching
Yep.
to develop better communication, build trust, have some fun, all of those great communication tools that you shared. And I loved it so much. I love learning about what other people do for a living and why they do it for a living. That was part of it. And I loved seeing the aha moments and the transformation that improv, that impact that improv had on people. From there, I would get tapped on the shoulder and asked, "Can you coach this executive over here because they have a big conference that they need to speak at?" And I'd say, "Yes." I also really enjoyed that work as well. It was like directing little solo performances in my mind. And so I did that for many years as a way to supplement my freelance lifestyle as a performer. So I was doing that. I was directing, I was acting, I was in commercials, I was doing voiceovers, like anything I could do. I was
Yeah.
teaching at a university to piecemeal my income together as a creative. And so then from there, when the pandemic hit, we moved to New York City to Manhattan because our family, I didn't feel fit in Colorado any longer. And my husband didn't feel that way either. We adopted our daughter when she was a newborn. We wanted to have more diversity and culture in her life. We wanted to be challenged, I felt, in a different way. Colorado is beautiful. We have an amazing
Yep.
community there, but we just wanted to be challenged as
Yep.
well. And so we took this huge leap of faith. We bought an RV, we put our house up for rent, and we toured around all the south of the US and looked in every single city that we thought maybe our family would fit. And then we ended up in Mexico and we lived there for 6 months. And then we met Phil Farmacola, who said, "Hey, I got this place on 56th and 9th in New York City. Do you want to live there?" And we're like, "Yes. We'll give it to you for $1,000 a month." Yes, and well,
That's
that
better
didn't.
than rent control.
Yeah, it was rent control. That did not happen. But my husband and I paused and said yes to Manhattan. Look how excited and alive we became at that idea. And then in 2 weeks' time, I kid you not, we signed a lease to a place that we hadn't seen, just pictures, in Washington Heights. We signed a lease while driving down the interstate in our RV through New Mexico on our way back to Colorado, and packed up the house, rented it out full time, sold the RV, got a U-Haul, put some furniture in it, drove to Manhattan, and we've been here ever since.
Sight unseen.
Sight unseen. And I had only visited New York City twice before that.
Wow, that's you and your husband get a gold star for being risk takers.
Oh,
That's awesome.
it was awesome. It was awesome. And I would never buy an RV again. I have a lot to say about that, but I feel like that would be for another time.
Yeah,
I
right.
I wanna recognize that I don't see their name, I just see LinkedIn user. So if we're not connected, please connect with me. Please connect with Mark. I'm with you, Mark James. I also wanna do a lot more and love to contribute and help others grow in their role, focused on leadership development. And I don't wanna work full time, but don't intend to ever retire. We're perennials.
Perennials. Yeah, it's better to be a perennial than an annual, that's for sure.
It's so true. It's
That's
so
great. I
true.
love that.
I mean, as long as I can walk and talk
Yep.
and and that's why my mental health and physical, exercising, eating well, all those things,
All those
because
things, yeah.
I do not intend to quit
Oh, neither do
anytime
I. I
soon.
mean, you think about the number of people that I know, and I think we can all relate to people we know that they retire,
Yeah.
and it's all downhill.
Yeah.
You got to keep exercising the gray matter as well as your body.
Yeah.
And you can't. I mean, if you're just going to give up, just go lay in a pine box and wait. I mean,
No.
it doesn't really do anything in the long run. And you don't want to be one of those people that goes to the cemetery with an idea, even though it may be an idea late in life that never sees the light of day.
Well, and also I will say this much too. I had a father who passed away at 65 years old,
Mm,
and
too
it
early.
was an accident. And we
Mhm.
don't, and all he talked about was retirement, that he was saving for retirement and he never made it to retirement. He never
Yeah.
got to experience what that was like. So I also come from this place where every single day is precious. Make it count.
Yeah.
Make it count. Uh,
Yeah.
Jermaine, Hello from Ontario.
Hello,
Good to see
Jermaine.
you. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
So Mark, what is the one thing that you are the most excited about this week?
This week, this is going to be a little off the wall, but
I am you're in good company.
okay. Well, as you know that we've been putting flooring into our house here in
Mhm,
Illinois where I live,
mhm.
and it was a grueling uh, task because there's a lot of up and down and stuff. So I actually developed a pretty bad problem with my piriformis on my left
Okay.
side,
Mhm.
and so fortunately I started physical therapy. And so what I'm happiest about is I'm starting to be able to sleep a little better at night. And
Good.
believe me, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal
Yeah,
because
right.
we need our sleep.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
our sleep. I'm
So it's
sorry.
a little victory. It's not a life earth-shaking victory, but it is a victory for the week. Since you put that parameter on it, that's my victory for the week.
I think it's a big victory. So let's give a takeaway for our audience here, which is if they're going to lay flooring, Mark, what is it that they should not do?
Oh, don't do it
Don't
yourself.
do it yourself.
It's like the old notion that they say about if a person acts as their own attorney, they have a fool for a client. If you're going to act as your own contractor, you may have a fool for the customer.
You heard it right here. You heard
Yeah,
it right here.
write a check if you can. If you can, and if you can't, you can't. But the other thing I would say is that one of the things that it did is it harkened back to the fact that I'm glad I paid attention to geometry in high school
Okay.
because it's all about geometry. When you're laying flooring and you've got angles to work around and all this stuff and
Yeah.
how to cut and everything, geometry comes into play. So
Well,
for
then
your kids out there, if they're bored about geometry, say pay at least half attention because it'll come
pay
into
half
play.
attention. And if you are going to do it by yourself, I'm going to say this, Mark, which is switch sides physically, right? So you don't hurt yourself.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
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 that too.
hmm
Yeah. I
yeah.
learned my lesson the hard way years ago through physical theater. It's a whole long story, but I now have permanent sciatica, which I'm healed. Can I tell you this story really quick?
Yeah,
I
go
know
ahead.
I love how ping-pongy this conversation is. It's like I love it. Uh, I am taking this class across the street from my house, and I was walking home one day, and Dustin, who lives in my building, used to be perform for Cirque du Soleil, and he's very fit, and his whole family is amazing. But I'm walking, and I'm in excruciating pain because the sciatica is just like really flared up,
Hmm.
and I was gonna go to the doctor, and he stops me. He goes, "No, you're gonna come to my class." And I said, "Okay." I've been going every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the past 2.5 months, and it's gone. Like, it's not gone, but
Yeah, it never goes away completely,
it
right?
never goes away completely, but I feel stronger. I didn't have to go to the doctor. It hasn't flared up badly. He's amazing. So, shout out to Dustin.
Kudos to him. And along with that, and I'm sure probably some of the stuff he has you do is in the yoga world.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Yoga
All about
is
strengthening. Yep.
about strengthening it. So yoga, and you can find anything you want on YouTube. You don't have to go hire an expensive therapist or a PT person to do it, unless it's really severe and your doctor prescribes it.
Just make sure that the things are in alignment, that you're not, like, twisting things as you do it.
Yeah.
That's He's gets so specific with me, and I'm like, "I love this."
Well, it's so important to remember that there are two things that happen is that our bodies are very fine-tuned machines if you
Yeah,
think about it.
yeah,
And you got to keep everything in balance because we're basically bilateral in terms of
yeah,
everything in our systems and who we are. But then also, make sure your frame of mind is such because our bodies are asked to cash checks, our minds are always writing. So you have to address your mental health as well as your physical health.
100% mindset's everything. Love
Absolutely.
it. I
Yes.
love it.
Yes, it
Mark,
is.
I could talk to you forever.
Me too. Same here with
I could
you.
talk to you forever, but we got a class that's gonna be happening in a half an
Yeah,
hour.
half an hour, right?
Yeah. I highly encourage that if people wanna join us for Confidently Speaking,
Yep.
please do. It's an amazing program. I have members who've been in it for what, 3 years now? You've been in it for about a year, I would say. Is that
Uh,
correct?
Probably about a year, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
And we do improv. It's improv for speakers. There's other resources in there that you can also use to help you on your speaking journey. And then, of course, a wonderful community that's going to lift you up
Yeah,
and help you along the way. And like Mark said earlier, you don't have to be wanting to be a professional speaker. It's just a great class for communication in general.
yeah. And it's
So
just Meredith does a great job of creating a safe environment. There's no such thing as making a mistake. They don't exist in improv.
no, we want you to make mistakes, don't we,
Yeah,
Mark?
yeah. Make
Oh,
fun
because
mistakes.
perfection is highly overrated, I
Yes,
say.
it is. Yes, it is.
Highly overrated. Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please follow Mark James on LinkedIn if you are not already. Mark, where else can people find you?
You can find me at www.performadvisors, performadvisors.com. You can also call me at 630-882-9107. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, Meredith. It's always a pleasure.
Oh my goodness. You too, Mark. I'll see you in a half an hour, and I'm going to